Every time you add something to your to-do list without finishing what's already there, you're actually training yourself that starting matters more than finishing. And that's how you end up with 47 half-done projects and no momentum because you never changed how you make the list in the first place. So in this week's episode of Weekly Momentum, we're going to dive into the landscape of unfinished to-dos and address the high cost of just carrying everything over week after week and never getting to a place of completion. Welcome to Weekly Momentum. I'm the Get It Done Diva, and I show women in business how to increase their profitability so that they can buy back their time and their freedom. If you would like to unlock the business freedom formula, you can learn the whole system and increase your profitability in the next 90 days by joining my upcoming masterclass. I only open the doors a couple of times a year, so make sure you sign up for the priority notification list. It's in the description below. Now, let's talk about that to-do list of yours. I get why you think finishing everything on your list means you're successful. It feels productive. It feels like progress. And we've all been taught that checking off every box is what good business owners do. But here's the truth. Every time you add something to your list without finishing what's already there, you're training yourself that starting matters more than finishing. And that's how you end up with all those half-done projects and nothing finished. You see, you never changed how you make the list in the first place. I have an interesting story I want to share with you. It's really, I think, highlights the power and the weight of unfinished projects. So I was on vacation this last week, and while I was on vacation, my pet sitter will also clean my house if I ask her to. And so I thought, yes, I'm going to have her clean the house. How nice it would be to come back and have a clean house. And then while I was away, I was communicating with her every few days, checking in with all of the animals that we have. We have quite the zoo. And I could sense something was wrong with her. And she wasn't responding as often or as quickly as she usually does. She seemed like something was wrong, something was going on. So after a few days of this, it was about a couple days before we came back, I decided to call her and say, "What's going on? Are you okay?" And when I did, she was in tears. Her cat had just passed away, her 14-year-old cat. She was devastated. And I was so glad that I picked up the phone. She was in the middle of cleaning the house. I said, "Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter about the house. I just want you to be okay. Are you okay?" She's like, "It's fine. I'm going to keep cleaning." I'm like, "But you don't need to." And she said, "It's okay." Fast forward a few days later when I come home. I come home and right away I text her. I'm like, "How much do I owe you?" Because I want to make sure I take care of her. And she texted me back, and it was a little bit of a strange message because it said, X amount of dollars for the pet sitting, and then this much for cleaning the house. I sort of did it. And I was like, okay. And so I started looking around the house, and she'd started cleaning, but she hadn't finished. And I completely understand. And I didn't feel upset with her about that, but it was really interesting how it showed me that when you've started something but not finished it, it's very irritating and frustrating. And it's actually more work than not starting at all. And as I looked around, I'd see little bits and pieces that had been cleaned, but more what was highlighted was what hadn't been cleaned. And I get it. I wasn't blaming her at all for the state of the house. I had given her full permission, just go home, don't worry about cleaning the house. But it really got me to thinking about the weight of all the unfinished things that are on our to-do lists. When we start something, but we don't finish it, it's like it bumps up against us it rubs us in the wrong direction. We've got these constant reminders of what we started but didn't finish. The 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 all the fluff and the pet hair that we find that we can see underneath the couch, the rag that is there still from cleaning in the bedroom, but it's all scrunched up and dried up with dirt and just sitting on the vanity, right? These are things that I could point towards clear things around the house being cleaned. But what I realized was this is happening all the time for myself and my clients with unfinished to-dos, unfinished projects. And as business owners, ladies, we're surrounded by them. So what should you do instead? First, I want you to think about what progress could look like this week. Not busyness, not checking boxes. What does moving your business forward actually look like this week? Second, define really clear deliverables and objectives, not just finish this, this, this. Break it down. What does done actually mean specifically for each thing? Third, you need to be more honest with yourself about how long things take. You got to triple your time estimate and stop over promising to yourself because you're planning like nothing will go wrong or come up and you'll never get interrupted. And we all know that's not true. Fourth, do a weekly rewind at the end of each week. It's part of weekly momentum. Notice where you're overpromising. Get curious about why you keep doing it. That's how you plan better in the future instead of repeating the same cycle. And fifth, your weekly goal isn't to finish everything. It's to finish the one thing that creates the most progress. If you only get one thing done this week that would move the business forward, what would that be? Start there. And finally, give yourself permission to let some things go. Not everything on your list matters equally. Some things can wait. Some things don't need to be done at all. Leadership is knowing the difference, which really lends us to the question of what does done look like? To start with, we can look at it as the idea of being complete with business. Let's start there. For some of you, it might mean that you've automated and systemized things so well that you can step away and you're actually working less, that you have other people that have taken over and that are doing things for you. For some of you, it might mean that you've gotten the business to a position where you can either sell it or you could literally completely step away but still draw money from the business and retire, right? What is your end game? Where are you going? Because I think if we don't pause to think about where we're going with anything like cleaning the house, what does done look like? We can really get into trouble because we start just getting busy doing things and then wonder, well, why isn't it taking me to the destination that I want to go to? And it's because we never really got clear on what the destination was. So first we start with really the big idea of where is this next milestone for you in your business? What does done in your business look like? Does it mean reaching a point where you feel successful or you've gotten accolades or you have a certain number of clients? Is it that everything's ticking over nicely and there's no problems, right? I think what you'll start to see, and I'm laughing, you can tell it when I said that, is because when you start getting clear on what done looks like, big picture for your business, I think you're going to start to realize that you might have some unrealistic expectations, or you might not have even thought about this. Once you've pondered that question for a while, which I don't think you'll do in just one day, but at least maybe this week you could spend some time thinking about it, then we can start to look at done from other directions. Your business is a collection of systems. That's literally the definition of a business. And so your job as a CEO is to build systems. So what I'm doing with the roadmap now, when I take people through it, is am helping them really get clear on the bottleneck and figure out which system they want to focus on. And once you figure out which system you want to focus on, you've got to figure out what done looks like. And how many times have we, as business owners, started working on one system or automating things? You might not have even called it that you were working on a system. It might have been that you just thought you were working on a project. But ultimately, a lot of the things that you've been working on, wanting them to run better, is that you've been working on a lot of systems, but you never really finished any of them. And the weight of all of that as you walk around your business, as you walk through your week, as you walk through your day, it's such a great weight and such a drain on you. Because just like the example that I shared about my house, it's irritating. It's frustrating. You don't know where to start. I don't know what she cleaned and what she didn't. And I almost feel like I just have to clean everything. I really can't see one spot that's done. And I think that's really true for so many business owners. So as you're picking projects that you're going to work on, really looking at, this is the thing I'm going to focus on. This is what done looks like. And what needs to happen then is this commitment to focusing on it until it's done. When we're planning for things, we think things will take a lot less time than they actually do. And I know that if you've been listening for a while, you've heard me say that many, many times before. But maybe it's going to really land today, because I think one of the biggest things that gets in our way of not finishing things is that we feel like we're running out of time, that we don't have time to finish it properly. So we just kind of wing it. We just get through. We just get it kind of done. But we know, or we think in our mind, that we're going to come back to it and finish it properly later. And this is creating this landscape. It almost feels to me like a garbage dump of just unfinished projects and tasks and systems that we're just bumping up against all day long, all week long. And our team is bumping up against things that aren't working correctly, that we are irritated by and frustrated. It gets us caught up in the negative emotions rather than feeling clear-headed and in that visionary place that we really need to be in to lead the business as the CEO. And so I think one of the things that we can do to shift this, of course, I mentioned already, is to just be crystal clear on what is this project that I'm working on? What will it look like when it's done? But then also to realize it is going to take a lot longer than I think to do this. And being willing to be all in until it's finished and to make that the new normal. Because as I said at the beginning, when we keep starting things, we literally train ourselves that starting is the important thing. I think the overwhelm and the drain of the to-do list is more around the idea that there are so many items on the list that you've started but not finished. So what I really want you to step into as you step into this week's weekly momentum, which if you're new to this podcast, there's 4 steps to the weekly momentum process. There's rewind, there is realign, there is plan, and there is plug in. We're going to go through all 4 steps, and we're going to keep in mind everything that I just talked about. So step 1 is rewind. Rewind is what is going to change everything, because rewind is where you look at your old habit of starting things, overpromising, not allowing enough time, and you start to figure out and rewire new ways of operating and develop new habits. Without rewinding, whether it's for the day or the week, you just keep repeating the same things again and again and again. So that's why this rewind step is so important. So when we rewind the week, what we're looking for, especially this week, is we want to be looking for, where have you overpromised? How many to-dos do you have on projects? If you really did a brain dump of everything that you're expecting to finish and disappointed and frustrated and have half done, if you make that list and be really honest with yourself, you can learn so much about what you can do to shift the old habit of starting and not finishing and start to rewire a better habit of prioritizing, planning, and being all in. What did you expect to finish, but stuff came up? What stuff came up? What could you have done differently? What could you have taken off your plate at the beginning of the week so that you could have finished a few things instead of half finishing a lot of things? That's the biggest shift that's going to make the biggest impact, because you're going to learn from your own experience how to underpromise based on how you've overpromised in the past. And trust me, I'm right there with you. I'm still a reformed overpromiser. And every single week, I'm learning new ways that I can underpromise, so that I can finish more things and create more momentum in every week and move towards my bigger goals and projects. So as you're rewinding, you're really mining for gold here and looking where you can start to make some of those adjustments and shift your habits. Then in step 2, we realign, which is going to reinforce this even more, because realigning just means look at your bigger goals and remind yourself what they are and see if you need to make any adjustments. So with all this talk about what is the big idea with your business? Where is it really going? And also the idea of underpromising. You might now look at your 90-day goals or your annual goals with new eyes, because you might want to maybe adjust them a little bit. So right now is a great time to do that when you're in step 2 of realigning, looking at those goals and reminding yourself what they are and making any adjustments you need to. And if you don't have 90-day goals yet, then make sure that you are taking some time to get a vision of where you're going, because weekly momentum is amazing, but it needs that bigger vision to pull it forward. Step 3 is plan. Plan is where you're going to create a list, a weekly top 10 list. And it's interesting because sometimes my clients want to make a smaller list. So they feel that urge that they want to underpromise. And I completely respect that. So you don't have to have 10 things on your list. But I will say this. I honestly believe you're better having 10 things on the list that are small things than having 3 big things on the list. What happens a lot of the time is people write down these massive projects, each one for their weekly top 10. They're completely overpromising. I know when I first started doing this process, I would write down a month's worth of stuff, or even 90 days worth of stuff that in my head I expected to get done in the next week. I'm asking you this week to raise the bar, to raise your level of commitment, and to go all in with what you're writing down on your weekly top 10. I want you to, for every item that you write down, ask yourself, what would done look like? And then I want you to ask yourself, how long do I think this is going to take? And then triple it, because we know things are going to happen. Allow more time than you need so that you don't have to wing it and you can actually take it to the finish line. What you might end up with is a list of 10 things that you could get done in maybe 25 minutes each, maybe 50 minutes each. Really break it down to things that are manageable. But here's the caveat. Don't just make it stuff. Make it things that are going to move you towards the bigger goals. So I also want you to look at that weekly top 10 list, and I want you to ask yourself, how Is this moving me towards my bigger goals? How is this creating progress towards what I want for my business? The big idea of where I'm heading, my bigger goals. Because sometimes we can make little lists that are doable, but it's just busy work. I want you to upgrade what you're putting your energy and attention on this week so that you're raising the bar and you're creating even more momentum with this laser focus and being crystal clear about what you're doing. So that's step 3. It's going to be the most elevated weekly top 10 list you've ever made. And the final step, step 4, is where you plug in. This is where you take that list and you get real. You look at when you're going to spend the time during the week. You plug it into the week like you're making an appointment with yourself. So you make sure that you have set yourself up for success, that the things that you say you're going to do will fit into the week. Do some rearranging, move things around if you need to. That's what you're doing in the plug-in step. And then the final step of the plug-in that I think is really helpful is to imagine yourself having completed everything on the weekly top 10 list. How do you feel? Write down 3, 4, 5 words about how you will feel if you've completed everything on your weekly top 10 list this week. And have those words handy so that as you move through the week, maybe you start off each day this week looking at those words, feeling the energy of clarity or confidence or success, whatever the words are. Feel into them every day as you start your day, and then look at your weekly top 10 and use it to build your daily list. Then instead of just creating all of these to-do lists with more things that we're just carrying over from day to day, treat each day as a new day. Reference the weekly list. Learn from what's happened so far this week and continue to upgrade your momentum every single day. So hopefully you're starting to see how you can begin to shift out of training yourself to start things and shift more into the energy of doing less and finishing so that you can create more progress as you step into this week. So if you enjoyed this episode of Weekly Momentum, make sure that you subscribe. We do new episodes every week, and I look forward to seeing you in Momentum.